have you found any advantages or disadvantages to sharing your mental health status or diagnosis with a manager? And did you have any suggestions for tackling this? And how would you choose to disclose?
Quite a complex question. And I think it comes back to context, as everything generally does. So you've got to think about who you're sharing it with. Are they equipped? Are they on your side? In an ideal world, we would like every leader to, be able to listen and be empathic and to not judge. That's an ideal world. Sadly, we don't live in an ideal world. So I actually just had an example last week of my son who'd had a major reaction to a antibiotic that resulted in sort of suicidal sort of behaviors and some physical injury as well. And he rang his manager, who said, "Oh, well, we'll have to take your promotion away now, and you need to have a think about whether you're suited for working at this company." So that's an example.
Top leadership right there.
Top leadership 101. But that leader, I don't want to demonize her, because she was 26. She wasn't equipped. My son didn't read the room. She was quite competitive with him. They were going up for the same job that he was promoted for. And so you do need to think about context when you're deciding, okay, who am I going to share this with? Share it with the person that you feel the most safest with, and who you feel that is the best equipped to share the nature of that vulnerability with. Then you've got to think about, okay, what's my motivation for sharing? What's behind why I'm sharing? So I'm thinking back to a few years ago when I'd sadly lost, I think it was 3 friends in a sort of close proximity of time. I was going through a lot of grief, probably on the brink of depression. And that was something that I shared with a couple of people I worked with, because I wasn't my usual self. And I didn't want them to interpret my behavior as being about them, because often people do in the absence of not knowing. So sometimes your motivation might be to, protect the people around you from personalizing your behavior. Like if you're going through a difficult time and you're grumpier than usual, you might want to tell people you're going through a difficult time. So don't personalize my behavior. Or maybe your motivation is you might need some accommodations. So if, you've got chronic anxiety, or if you've got a form of neurodiversity on board, and the ways of working are not working for you, and they're stopping from you sort of being your best self at work and delivering your best work, well, then that's a motivation. So yeah, that's just a couple of ideas from me, is pick the right person, think about the motivation, and also finally, ask what it is you want for the support that you want. Because sometimes when people share that they've got anxiety or they're going through a difficult time, sometimes a leader will almost be over compassionate and take projects away, or lighten the load. But actually that might be the worst thing for that person. So, maybe define, okay, this is the support I need. Is I just, I need you to just know where I'm at right now, but please, this doesn't mean that I'm not available for this project, and I'm still happy with the workload. Or you might say the opposite. You might say, you know what, I do need a lighter workload.
That's excellent. Chaz, I mean, clearly making notes.
I've just learned something.
Yes.
I'm the first one to take everything away. I'm the first one to go, you go home, we'll look after you. But, I never thought about it I'm the worst person. I've suffered with anxiety for a long time, not at the moment, but I've always tell everyone about it to normalize that sort of behavior. But I'm also, I've got the tendency to still wanting to work because it's sort of my identity anyway. So if anyone took that actually away from me, that would be kind of traumatizing, right? I never thought about it this way. I'm like,
And almost sometimes shaming, like you can almost go into a bit of a shame spiral and go, oh my God, you know, I'm sick. You know, this means I'm sick and I'm not capable, you know.
Yeah, 100%. That's just what I do. I hope no one else in my company does that. I want to make sure that everyone else gets to have their anxiety. No, I'm like, you know, like literally gets to deal with it in a sort of healthy way. But that makes so much sense what you just said. But it's super daunting, right? If you're going through something, you need to be really thoughtful of who you're sharing this with, because there's a risk attached to it, and obviously there is not that much stigma anymore around it, but still, you know, you could be penalized for that, you know, you could be considered all sorts of things, so it is a scary thing, so you have to be careful who you share it with. And it says a lot about the employer that you work for as well, you know, and the structures that they provide. So that's always a good indicator to have a little bit of a sense check if you're in the right company based on the response that you're getting.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, it's pretty daunting, isn't it? So because of you just not knowing what response you're going to get. I think like one other thing is just trying to take control of that conversation yourself. And I think like we've had in the past examples of, you never go to, like if you want a good relationship with your manager, you never go to them with just the problem. You go with the problem and the solution. And only you can know everything or be the expert on your own mental health. And so if you're able to kind of take that and say, look, this is what I have, but this is what I need. And, you know, I've had it before and you'll have seen that I can still do my work, then you can take control of that conversation and get a good outcome, hopefully.